Well, thanks everybody for sticking around, and we are grateful that you're here today. This is our annual meeting, and we've got a lot going on. So we are excited for what God has been doing in our midst and going to continue to do, and we're excited for a lot of different things, a lot of different reasons. But let me start us off with a word of prayer, and then we'll get to our meeting today. Dear God, we thank you for this day, and we acknowledge that you are our King, and we praise you as we praised you earlier this morning. We praise you now for all that you have done in our midst, and all that you're going to continue to do. You are an amazing and wonderful God, and we trust you. We know that you have guided us to this point, and you're going to continue to guide us. May we as we go through this meeting today, may you just impress upon our hearts your love for us and also your vision for this place called the Well. And we just ask, God, that you will move in mighty ways. And we trust you. We thank you for this time. We ask this now in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Aaron Bell. I'm part of the overseer team here at the Well, and I've had the privilege to be a part of this church since the very beginning. And I know there's a few of us in this room that have also had that opportunity. And so very excited today to see where God is guiding and leading. We've got a few things that we need to do. We have some business things, and obviously we have some things that we're asking you to consider and continue to partner with what we got going on here, what God's doing in our midst. So today, kind of the agenda is as follows. We first of all need to. We've got some new overseers that we would like to join us, and we're going to ask for you to affirm these guys. Also, we will be sharing with you kind of some of the next steps about where we are physically and where we could be headed, and then finally we'll talk budget items as well. So. Myself and Tim Macy and Stuart will be kind of sharing the load today. But first off, we have some new overseers that we would like you to affirm, and we had a nominating team that basically went out and talked to a number of different people, in our midst, leaders in our midst, and really prayed through and asked them to consider this opportunity to be a part of leadership at the Well. And we have three gentlemen that you probably know, many of you know, they've been around a while, and we're going to ask for your affirmation for them to be a part of the overseer team. So I guess we'll bring them on up, and then you'll get a chance to hear a little bit from them, and then we'll vote. I think Jeff is kind of passing around those as well. So let's see, Gary Belleville. Is Gary in here right now? There's Gary. Yeah, come on up, Gary. Ryan White. Come on down, yeah. And David Peterson. Where's Dave Peterson? I saw him. All right, sweet. So we've got these three guys. We had a couple overseers step down, and one moved. And so we had three open spots. So these are three guys. So real quick, I'm just going to, in a moment, hand them the mic, and I just want them to just quickly just kind of share, why you think God's calling you to be a part of the leadership team here at the Well. So, Ryan White.
Hey, I'm Ryan White. Been up here on drums for a little while. You guys probably have met me. If not, I would love to meet you and talk to you. Super excited to be trusted in this position, to be able to walk with the Well and help out in any ways. Love to have conversations with people and assist in any ways.
Well, hi, my name is Gary Belleville, and when I was approached for this position, I think back about some of the leaders in the Bible that we look at, Moses and Gideon in particular. A couple reluctant individuals looking to that God called to step forward and lead. And so was it last year at this time, I volunteered to be on the search team for overseers, thinking that, hey, that might protect me from being asked. But Danette Bell and Stuart Bowman had a different opinion, and they asked me to step forward, and just through putting out some fleeces out there, I just felt God saying to me that yes, it's time to step forward in this position. So look forward to being serving you all, and get to know many of you that have not had a chance to get to know in this position as overseer.
All right, is it still morning? All right, so good morning. I'll say it anyway. So my name's Dave Peterson. I've been attending the well. Our family has been doing that since November 2010, and really enjoyed being at the well. And we currently lead a family on mission group. And I was approached. I've been an overseer before, and obviously it's a great opportunity for us to be able to do that again. And you know, leading a family on mission, this is just, I guess, expanding that role into a larger role in, you know, leading this family of believers, and really looking forward to doing that.
All right, thanks, you guys. Appreciate it. So what we're asking you to do is to, on the ballot that you've been given, just affirm if you, you know, each of these guys, if this is a role that you believe that they should be in. So just go ahead and check that off, and then we'll be collecting it. And at the end of our time today, Diane will be back there tallying everything up. And at the end of our time, we'll let you know how that went. Secondly, the second thing that we're asking is this is kind of an ongoing thing. So next year, I think I actually roll off as an overseer next year. So we'll be looking for somebody to fill my spot. And so anyway, what we're asking you to do is to write down a name of a person who you think would be good to be a part of the nominating team. This past year, we had a couple people. I think Danette was on that team. Stuart Bauman helped with the team as well. And so anyway, so we're looking for a couple people to be a part of the nominating team. Really, it's a few hours of your time to, you know, do some interviews and bring, you know, think tank people that would be good for this position. So if you would also, just on that blank piece of paper, just write somebody's name down. You can pick somebody, volunteer somebody, or you volunteer yourself, I suppose, if you'd like to do that as well. So all of those ballots will be picked up, and then, like I said, we'll come back at the end and finish this process up with the affirmation. Does that make sense? All right, thanks, you guys. Appreciate it. You guys can have a seat. Yep, we give them a round of applause. All right. So, Tim, come on up. You're next. On The Price is Right. Just kidding.
Price is Right. Woohoo! All right. So, this is going to be our June update for the building project team. How many of you have been through the last couple of updates? Raise your hand if you've been through the last couple of updates. Okay, great. So that means this, is that I'm going to start with a brief recap of what we're doing and what we've done. And then basically I'm going to get into our progress report and then start talking about how things have changed. And as with anything in terms of building or any project that you have, there's always change that happens. So if you're in a project, there's always something that changes. You know, you go to fix your house, and it turns out that you spend like $1,000 when you thought it was going to be a $10 part, right? So don't worry, it's not that bad, but it's just something like that. So the first thing I want to talk about is a brief recap, is that, you know, we've been through, in the last year, we've really been through identifying our needs, what our current needs are, what really are we trying to accomplish, and then basically where are we hearing from God in terms of our movement forward, you know, as a church and as a people. So we went through a process of really defining our goals. One of the things that we wanted to do is that the first thing was to really hear from the Lord, what is it that you're calling us to? What is it that you're calling us to well to? Having that vibrant life and having life to life is really kind of a core for us. And so we want to be able to do that continually across the county. And now, what does that mean, county-wise? Well, Livingston County is pretty big. So we identified, and if you've been here before, you've seen a little triangle that we did from Route 23, 96, and 59. And so that kind of encompasses the triangle. So we wanted to, in terms of a new building or new place to stay or reside, we wanted to go to and stay within that triangle. That was a part of our goal, okay? We felt that God was leading us to stay in this triangle. Because we could move further west, but then that's further west. We could move further east, but then that's further east. So we thought the triangle was for us, okay? The next thing is that we wanted to leverage this building, which, if you're not familiar with this building, we own this building. So this building itself was about 10 years ago that it was really heavily discounted to us so that we were able to step in and move into this building. But as you know, it's a little bit disjointed in terms of this building because we meet in here, we got the little kids over there, and then we got the little older kids over there, and we have youth over there, and we have a dentist in between. So, you know, if you want to get your teeth cleaned before you drop your kids off, you can do that, but we don't recommend it, just for tooth's sake. But we know that this is really not a conducive place for us, but we recognize that this place, along with Trinity Health, building a new building and bringing over the Howell Institution over there, we sensed that this was the right time for us to really look at this building, look at how we're continuing to grow and to minister and to bring life to Livingston County, and how we could do that in a better facility. So we wanted to leverage this building. That was some of the things that we talked about. Now, in our iteration for this over the last year and a half, we looked at looking at trying to leverage this building for loans so that we could essentially, we occupy about 11,000 square feet of the building, and then the other 10,000 square feet is occupied by the renters that are here. So we looked at, okay, how can we occupy the building? How can we leave the building, rent it out, you know, and then borrow, okay? So keep that in mind. I just want you to keep that in mind, that we were looking to borrow to move forward. Okay, and then what's happened over the last year too is that we've tried to keep you up to date. You know, every month. I think we skipped May. We skipped May? Yeah. Okay. So this is a 2-month kind of update. So just kind of bringing you in there. So this will be in our progress report May and April and June, most of June, because we're all at the end of June. Okay. So, but everything that we've tried to do is that we want to align, obviously, with the overseers. When the project team, you know, we meet with the overseers on a monthly basis as well, because I'm an overseer, so I can kind of meet with myself, you know, and kind of carry that forward to the team as they go forward. So, and you can see we've only been 3 people, so it's not been that hard to meet with, you know, really. But now it'll be a little more complicated. But we love the new overseers, and we're so happy to guys to join us in this way. But we look to align with you guys too. We want the information out to you guys. So I've had some really good questions, and thank you, and I really appreciate those questions. Please continue to ask questions. If you're not sure of something, you know, and you're really maybe a little hesitant, don't worry. I'm a pretty nice guy most of the time, so I can be ask questions and stuff like that. So if anybody has anything, just let me know. Progress report. So here's our progress report. We met with several bankers. And the bankers basically kind of gave us interesting meetings. Let's just say it that way. What we came out of those meetings was that pretty much every bank that's out there looks at us and says, churches are a high risk at this point to lend to. And that's just kind of across the board. The rates are up, you know, interest rates. And anybody, if you've refinanced in the last few months, you know that the rates are higher. So rates are higher. So we've had some discouraging or maybe life-changing, I don't know, you know, we've had some news in and around the banks that's not been super positive, to be honest with you. It's not aligned with what we were looking for in terms of our goal to basically borrow and build, okay? So that's the first news, and I'll come back to a little more of that in a little bit. We also have been working on a contract with a real estate broker to be able to lease and or sell this building. And actually, it's kind of a combination of both. So they have the rights to be able to market this building for lease and sale, okay? And that's coming soon. We finalized the contract this last week. We should be getting over to them this week and probably signing it and signing off on it this week. So that's going to start moving. And we'll talk a little bit more in detail what that means for us in a little bit. We do have a couple of folks that are potentially interested that have been a part of the well and that have been a part of the building and understand the building and the value of the building, and they've come to us and said, we might be interested in buying the place. So we are looking at them and talking to them and say, okay, how much would you be willing to offer us, and this is how much we need, you know, that kind of negotiation. So we have a couple of potential buyers, but that's not firm, and it's not real, you know, it's not real sure at this point in time. And then what we're doing with the brokers is obviously the broker will be getting us tenants to come in and have leases signed, and that's an important milestone for us, is that we need to have leases signed, okay? It's, you know, they can put and submit a letter of intent to come into this building, but we really want to see that lease, that signed off on lease, and we'll talk about timing of that in just a second. In the meantime, during this 2-month process, we've looked at another piece of property, and I'm going to show you that real quick, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And then finally, we started a detailed project plan, just starting to pull together some of the details that are around this. When you have multiple moving parts in any project, and those of you that have been in the project world and have been a part of that, you know that there's a lot of moving parts, and you have to really hone in on your details, because if you don't have a detailed project plan, what happens is that you'll plan for something, and then 3 things will pop up, and you don't have it on your plan, and it gets hard to really sequence that in, and becomes difficult to manage, and then difficult to communicate. So we want to have a detailed project plan to be able to communicate, especially to you guys, so that you know what's going on when. So the next thing I just wanted to show you is that this was the property that we put a letter of intent on a couple months ago. The letter of intent, we made them an offer of $750,000 plus a donation. And they came back to us and said, well, we want $950,000 and a donation. Okay, not that they're donating it to us, but more really that they're essentially they would get a donation by selling that property, or basically by selling the property for us at a lower rate. Okay. Well, so we held off on that, and the reason why we held off on that was that we started looking at another piece of property. And this piece of property is off of Old 23, and I don't know if you can see it, but it's just north of Heine Road off of Old 23. It's 20 acres. The previous property was 7.76 acres. This is 20 acres for less money. They're asking $1.2 million for this particular property. We've looked at this before, and we kind of said, we went back and forth with the broker on this one, and there was some miscommunication. That some of it was on my part, you know, some of it was on their part, just kind of miscommunicating around. But this particular property is 20 acres, so it gives us a little more land, and it's actually less. The previous property is asking about 1.4. So we kind of floated a little bit of I'll call it a non-letter of intent offer to them to say, hey, would you be willing to take less money than 1.2? And they said, yeah, we'll listen to all offers. And so that's where we left it right now with this property. It is north of 23, but it is ready to build. It was laid out for a subdivision basically of like six lots that you could build around, and then there's a retention lake that's about 10 acres around that. So, but it's flat. There is no tree. It's ready to build. So one of the options for us is that we could maybe even sell off part of the land and recoup some of that money, you know, for the property, so that it doesn't work to be so expensive. That's one thing that we're looking at. But I wanted to let you know that this was another option for us that we were considering. It's a lot further out. It's further east. Obviously, it's just 2 miles down the first property that we looked at right off of Grand River near Dorr. This property, obviously, Old 23 and Heine is further east. Sorry, that way. I'm going to stop. Any questions on the new property? Yeah.
Area, not right next to that. There's several. There's several churches on Old 23, a little spread out, and the concern was at that time, would they allow another church to be built there because churches aren't charged property tax, right?
Yeah. So in any property, so this is a great question. So Mary Beth's question is that, you know, would the township, you know, really desire a church to purchase the property because they don't collect any taxes from a church from that perspective? And that's a good question. We don't know the answer, honestly, but you have to still go before, once you've bought the property and actually make that offer, and all that sequencing and timing and stuff like that, you have to go before the township and rezone. And we are considered a special permit for the townships in this area in Livingston County. So we would have to go before any township and request special permitting, and then the township then votes on it and so forth. So right now we don't even know because we haven't answered any of that. But it, you know, it's been on the market for quite a while, as you know. I mean, so it's been out there for several years. So there's a good possibility the longer it's out there that they would actually listen to our offer from a zoning perspective as well. Good question. Yes, sir. John? Major cross street is, I can't remember. Heine, right? Heine? Heine? Jeff, Heine? Yep. He's thinking ahead, you could tell. Right before Taylor, yeah. Yeah. Yep. That's good. Yep. That's the word I couldn't think of, Taylor. Any other questions on that? Okay, good. Yes, sir. It actually, yeah, we actually do some preliminary So the question is that wouldn't we want to know whether or not we could actually purchase this, you know, and whether or not the zoning would be accepted. So what we do is that we actually go and talk to the zoning commissioner boards. You know, like I've talked to the Genoa Township board director and just asked them, hey, do you have any foresee any issues of us buying this property in terms of rezoning it? And usually they'll give you the preliminary yeah or no, but usually it's yes. And because the reason why is that when you go before zoning, they want to see a concept, they want to see the designs, they want to see some specifics in and around the property. And that takes money because you kind of have to architect out what it's going to look like. But it's a good segue into my next slide. Yes?
Tim? Yeah, also, Phil and others, the way it kind of works is you sign a purchase agreement for the land, and then you get what's called a due diligence period, which is generally 180 days or 6 months. That gives you time to go make sure that you can build what you want to build on the property. If the township says no, then we can get out of the purchase agreement without buying it. So there will be a due diligence period for that.
Yeah, there's really no limited risk for us as long as the zoning commission meets. So again, going back to what's the concept, I just wanted to show you again the slide. This was done by the builder that we've signed up with, Schaefer. They did this, and this, again, it would be a smaller version, but this is kind of the vision that we have for the building and what it would kind of look like and so forth. So what we're asking for is, and also to inform you, is that we want to pivot. And what do I mean by pivot? Well, our original plan was, like I said, I indicated that we wanted to vacate this building, we wanted to lease it out, and essentially what we wanted to do was that we wanted to refinance as a part of this building. Our refinance comes up in January of 26 for this building. So we have to refinance no matter what from that perspective. But we wanted to leave, refinance, and then as a part of that refinance, ask for money for the land so that we could purchase the land, and then later on ask for a construction loan so that we could purchase that, okay? So 2 loans, you know, one refinance loan that builds in that new property, and then another construction loan on top of that. Again, I'm going to go back to our meeting with the banker says this is not probably an idea and a plan that we can actually execute at this point in time. It's just the high risk for banks. So, and we wanted to use the rental of this property as we build up that rental to pay off the loans. That was the strategy, was to pay off the loans with the rent that comes in from this property. Does that make sense, everybody? Okay. And then obviously you heard the bad news. I'm not going to repeat that. So what we want to pivot to? Well, we still want to vacate this property. We want to vacate this building. We want to lease this space. But the focus is to sell it. To sell this, build up the income that's associated with this, and build up the market value of this building by having more renters in this space. Again, we know that this is kind of primo space near Trinity Health, so that's a good opportunity for us to do this. And as we've met with brokers, they feel like it's a good opportunity as well. We had several brokers tell us, you're sitting on a gold mine. Well, we don't necessarily believe it's gold mine, but at the same time, we do believe the opportunities here to be able to do this effectively. So the purpose, though, is that before we were going to rent it out, get the income, and borrow. Now what we're saying is that we'll rent it out and then wait a little while longer and sell, okay? And that way, what ends up happening is this, is that it reduces, obviously, our need to borrow, and it actually gets us to the point where we would be debt-free. Our goal would be debt-free, have a building, no payments, have land, no payments, et cetera. So you guys see the difference between the two plans. So this is our pivot. The key point in all of this is that we will need to be in a temporary space a lot longer than what we had initially looked at, okay? And I can't tell you specifically how long, but I can tell you that we were probably thinking 18 months to 24 months before. This might be longer than that, like 36 to 48 months. So when you're thinking that through, okay, that's 1 to 2 years, 3 to 4 years, okay? I can't tell you specifics because we just don't know. So I'm going to go in through essentially this event sequence, the little more detail associated with that. So in July, between now and October, like I said, we'll sign a contract, we'll lease out. If we can sell this building for the amount that we need, we would sell it. So if somebody came in with a great offer, we're gone. We're taking it. But we don't think that's going to happen because the value of the building is certain because we occupy half the building, so half the space isn't valued from a real estate perspective. We need to build that value up to be able to get probably the money that we need to get out of this place. Yes, sir. Can you repeat that? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Target. What's the target for the building? How much do you think we can sell it for?
How much do we think we could sell it for?
Yeah, what do we want? What do we want?
What do we want? Over $4 million. In the neighborhood of 5 is better. 6 is great. 7 is wonderful.
Do I hear 20?
10 is beautiful.
20 million? Let's.
So, in right now, probably the value is somewhere between 2.5, 3. Quite honestly, but we need more. I mean, honestly, if you just run the numbers, we owe $1 million for this property. So you've got to take $1 million right off the top. So when I say $4 million, that means we only have $3 million to work with, right? So $6 million means we have $5 million. So you get the numbers.
But so would this be looked at like a business where you'd have multiples considering this? You're speculating on the leases that would come about as a result of the medical facility, right?
Well, there's really not necessarily speculation. It's that when we sign a lease contract, we're going to sign it for a specific amount for a square footage. So we're looking to get that specific amount out of a rental deal, when someone comes in and looks to rent the space. Now, here's the thing. Right now, this is a nice open space, and we've had real estate brokers come in and say, this is great open space. It is. But then you get into the office space and you get into the kid space, it's not as open, so then you got to do some reconfiguration. So you've also got to allow for some allowances on that. We are not going to provide necessarily a renter coming in with an allowance because we just don't have the money to do that, but we might take off some rent so that maybe you don't pay rent for 3 months while you're building out your space.
So if we had a price and we needed to move, so we'd have to vacate, what's the interim?
What's the interim? Good question. So the interim is beginning of November is when we want to move. And we have a space in a lease rental facility that we're looking at in detail this week, I believe. This Tuesday? Does that sound all right? Tuesday, yep. So, and that's off of M59 and Hughes Road. It's a child care facility during the day, and they're willing to rent out the facility to us for some evenings and Sunday mornings, because they don't have use of the facility there. It used to be, I think, Alive Church. The old Alive Church is kind of, if you know where that's at. So, yes, sir.
Do we have a space that we're looking at for, like, the intern? Like for
the space for intern?
Yes.
Yeah. So the space that I just described is larger than the current space that we occupy. So, and it would be rented out to us on a monthly basis, but we would actually sign a contract with them for a period of time. So that's over off of Hughes and M59. It's right next to the Seventh-day Adventist Church, if you know where the Seventh-day Adventist Church is. So here's what I'm trying to say, is that in November, we want to move. We want to have, between now and November, we want to get lease out this space and all the space that we have and move out. November is our move out date, is what we're targeting, okay? Then what we want to do is that, obviously, we got to store equipment. In January, we refinance. As of today, if we were to refinance right now, or if we were asked to refinance today, we don't have the money to refinance necessarily now. We need the cash flow coming in from the renters to be able to do the successful refinance. The main reason for that is that interest rates have doubled since the last time we refinanced. So, I mean, that's a big chunk. And right now, interest rates are not necessarily going down. They're still kind of, floating out there at the rate that they're at. So, so we need the additional income to be able to help us to refinance. Leases, signed leases, what I mentioned earlier, is really important for us to get that going so the bankers can see that and they'll refinance a little bit more easily for us. Right now we're on that margin borderline whether they would do it. And I'm talking about our current bank too. So no slam against them. It's just where the banking industry is right now and where the risk of banking industry is at. And then lastly, in terms of February, we would begin to receive the rental income only because we're looking at probably 3 months of free rent because we're not going to provide any allocation for them to redo this. They're going to need 3 months to redo this space. So we're going to provide them with free rent. But we will get security deposits from the renters that come in. That's a part of renting. That's a part of the space. And then finally, July 2026, next year, we're almost in July, we're looking at then we would reassess as far as whether or not we can sell for the amount that we need or do we need to wait longer in terms of that. Okay? I'm going to stop here. Any questions on this point? Fantastic. See, I go really fast if you don't raise your hand. Okay. Lastly, this is the most important slide, I feel, in my discussion today, is that we're asking you to do something. And we're asking you whether or not these areas will apply to you and whether or not you will consider this. Not like a contract, but consider it like a heartfelt promise to yourself and also before God. First thing that I would say is that, can you support the current plan? And I know the pivoting seems a little off, but we feel better. We feel better that this pivot is important to us long term so that we've got this pivot now, and then long term we have no debt. And that's a really nice place to be. It just might take us a little longer to get there. And so in that, we're asking you, can you support the current plan? And the next question for you is this, is that look at how that you might be able to improve on the plan and tell us. Let us know. We don't want to work in a vacuum. We're not working in a vacuum. We want to know. We are not experts necessarily. We're just trying to do what God has called us to do and serve. At the same time, if you've got an idea, let us know. Let us know what the idea is. Will you commit to prayer for this? Because these things can be really agonizing and sometimes frustrating and sometimes disappointing. Sounds familiar, huh? Because we expected the banks to help us. We expected the banking industry to kind of be receptive to us. We thought, man, we have income that comes in besides tithes and offerings. We thought, this is awesome. We're going to be able to do this. And the banks go, huh? What? We don't get you. You're not supposed. You're a church. You're not supposed to be having property and having rental income. So they've literally gone back and we told them what we're looking for. Like, yeah. And then they come back and they go, no. And we're like, what? So it can be confusing. We ask for your prayer. We really need your prayer in this matter and commit it to it. Next one is really, will you stick with us? This is going to be trying. This is going to be something that tests us. This is going to be something that challenges us in many different ways. I hope that I'm telling you things that maybe you've seen in your own life in a smaller way, and you've said, yeah, God's brought me through that, and he's going to bring us through this. And that's what we want to come away with, is that God is going to bring us through this. But let's stick together. Let's stick together in God, and so that we can see this thing really move forward and see the community and the county of Livingston County change because of the well. Wouldn't that be exciting? I mean, we've seen it, over the years at the well. And so now we feel like this is a new phase for us, and we feel like this is an amazing phase. But at the same time, we got to go through some testing. And then the last one is that look to see if you can contribute more time, energy, and finances, quite honestly, because this will take money. This will take, additional funding. What I failed to mention is in January, we'd like to set up a building fund. January 2026 and start that. So there is money that's involved, but there's also time that's involved. When we look at, okay, we've got to move furniture, we've got to move in storage. How many of you like to move? I mean, it stinks. I can't stand moving. We've moved like 5 times, and it's not something I like to do. I don't know about you, but it stinks. Moving stinks. Well, if we do it together, we can celebrate the move, right? Because when Israel left Egypt, there was a celebration. And even though they were going in the wilderness, they were celebrating. And that's pretty exciting, because God led them by a pillar, a cloud, and a fire. So be praying that God will lead us in all of this as we go through this. It's not going to be 40 years, promise. Won't be a wilderness of 40 years, but we do need for you to stand with us. Will you stand with us? Will you commit to us? Will you commit to the Lord in terms of this moving forward? So that's all of what I had to share. Anybody have anything that they want to add? Any questions that you have? Before Stuart comes up. Thank you. If you have any questions, let us know. Stuart. Budget.
All right, I know that you're clapping for him and not for me. Nobody likes to talk about budget stuff, but we get to do that today. And as I go through this, I'm sure you'll have more questions. In fact, that's why we did the budget now instead of before the presentation, because the budget makes no sense if you don't understand what the plan is. So we'll go over. I'm going to start. Actually, can we start with the building budget first, if we can get that slide up? Since we were just talking about the building, we'll go through the building slides. Oh, I guess I can do it here. All right. All right. So as Tim mentioned, the plan is for us to move out of this building in November, and then the goal is to have renters come in, new renters come in, with the goal of having leases signed by November, December timeframe. What that would mean then is we would start to get some revenue in with those new renters in February. And so as you can see, our rent line goes up slightly. That's our existing renters. There are some rent escalators, as well as you may recall that we had some challenges with ARTAs through COVID and whatnot. So there's some back rent pay that they have actually, praise God, they are working on paying that back. So I'm just very thankful that they're doing well enough to be able to go above and beyond the rent, the baseline rent that we created, and be able to start to pay back that back rent. The miscellaneous line item there, that's where the new renters come in, and so that bumps up our income by a substantial amount for the income for the year. For the building operations and whatnot, you do see that when, I want to point out the property taxes. When we move out, the property taxes will go up, because we only pay, we as a church have a, am I cutting in and out here, Josh? Or you guys hear me okay? Okay, good. Because we as a church occupy about half of the building, we only pay taxes on the other half of the building. Once we move out, we have to pay taxes on the entire building because we're a non-occupied owner. So that's where that significantly bumps up. And then we also, obviously, with the mortgage rate increase, we'll have increased mortgage once that kicks in. So that's kind of the changes there to the building. You can see so far this year, we've got just breaking even, a little bit more than break even. Once we move out, we'll have a significantly more income coming in with that. Any questions on the the building budget? Yeah, so so question was about the mortgage increase because of the increase. What that is, that's not going to kick in immediately. That'll kick in a little bit later, and that's why it's not as significant as it otherwise would be. And Jeff's got a comment as well.
Also, when you refinance, you'll miss a month of a payment. So that takes into account 1 month no payment of about $9,000. Does that make sense?
Any other questions on the building?
Did we ever get the roof fixed, or what's the plan for that?
Yeah, we will need to, there are some things that we'll need to do for maintenance. We don't have a specific amount that we know that we're going to need at this point, and so we'll address that when we do, but we do know that there are some expenses that'll be coming up. Any other questions? Don. Run.
With the tax increase, the people that are leasing, will they triple net and help contribute to that?
Yes, we didn't break it out specifically here, but we do have a triple net that will be including in on those. Our current lessees do not do a triple net. But with the new ones, we do plan on doing a triple net. Good question. Any other questions? Okay. So we'll go back to the church budget. So church budget is, you can see that there's a few things I want to point out here. One is that our tithes came up short this year, our general tithes, and we talked long and hard about what it is that we would do for a budget on this. And what we did was and I'll talk a little bit more about this after I go through everything, but we did decide to keep our current year budget the same from last year to this year, even though we didn't meet our budget. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. Gosh, whoa, sorry about all right. Okay, let's see. The other ones that I wanted to point out, we are going to see, when we move out, we're going to see a reduction in our rental income. So we currently have a facilities rental of about $16,000, and because some people come in and rent our space. Well, when we don't have the space, because we've rented it out to someone else, we're going to lose that as well. So we took that into account. And for the most part, everything thereafter is pretty much the same. We've assumed no increase in salaries, which is always a disappointment that we don't have the current budget to be able to budget for an increase in salaries. We try every year to do that, And this year, again, we weren't unable to fit that into the budget. So you can see this year, we came in about $15,000 short. And fortunately, through a variety of God moments, we were able to keep our head above water, but we did not bring in as much as we wanted to. So we talked about, okay, well, should we budget for our current, to be equal to our current year actual, or can we anticipate a growth in there? What we decided was that we went back and said, well, what do we think that God is calling us to do? And what does he want us to do here in Livingston County? And what does that take? And we looked at, okay, can we cut our expenses to match what our current giving is? And we looked at it and thought, we really think that we are operating at the bare bones minimum as we are right now. If we cut any more, it starts to impact our ability to do what God wants us to do. And we are going to put our faith in him to say, okay, God, you got this. You've gotten us through all kinds of other stuff. There have been times in the past where we didn't know whether we were going to be able to pay the bills. We didn't know if we were going to be able to make payroll. But he's gotten us through it. And so we said, okay, we're gonna set our budget to be what it is we think God wants us to do. And then we will strive to do that. But more importantly, instead of us striving, we're gonna just trust him. So as a result, two thoughts come to mind. One is just a practical, and one's more spiritual. So on the practical side, we said, okay, well, what does it take? How short are we? And we looked at it, and if each of the families that come to the well give $10 to $20 more per week, the delta between what we budgeted and what we currently bring in just goes away. So that's all it takes, is just $10 to $20 a week for each family that comes in here. So we would ask you to consider to pray about that, see what it is that God has for you, whether he's put that on your heart. If you can't do that, that's okay. If you can do more than that, that's great. And we just ask and we trust that if you go and bring that to the Lord, he will put on your heart what it is and how to respond. So that's the practical aspect. Like, okay, well, how much are we talking here? How much short were we this year? There's a spiritual aspect of it as well, that as overseers, we're not here to manage a church. We're not here to manage a building. We're not here to manage a budget. We're here to be spiritual leaders for people, not for a building. And so as we look through this, we realize, first of all, God doesn't need our money, right? He's got the whole world. He's got everything. He could snap his fingers and everything could change. As a result, we're not really focused on money, right? That's not why I'm up here trying to convince anybody to give $10 or $20 more a week. Really, what we as overseers are called to is to try to make sure that the flock is growing and growing closer to God. And one of the ways you do that is to place your trust in him with your finances. As I've grown, some of the ways that I trust most is when I go to God and like, all right, God, here you go. This is yours, and I've seen tremendous amount of growth that way. And so you may see a little more talk about financial pieces of the puzzle, of our spiritual life throughout the coming years, in the fall, in the winter, a little more than what you're used to. It's always tough to talk about money in the church, but today I just want to make sure that I make it clear when you see those discussions, it's not about, hey, we need more money, we're coming up short, we've got to, you know, pound the pulpit just to try to get another dollar or two. That's not where our heart is. Our heart really is twofold. One, to allow the church to do what God is calling us to do as a body, and two, that there are some financial aspects of growing in your walk with God, and when we ignore those, then we miss out on the blessings that God brings to us through that. And so those were the things that I wanted to touch on. I know it's a touchy topic. Hopefully I didn't scare anybody off with that, but I did want to go through the budget on that. Do we have any questions on the budget or on where the heart of the overseers is at? Okay, maybe I did scare you all off. I don't know. Oh, Phil.
I'm sorry if I bring this up. Don't we have to have the roof paid for? The thought of trying to
Sorry, it was about don't we need the roof paid for?
Before we entertain the thought of trying to lease.
That's a good question. I think that there is something. I don't know if we've got a schedule on that of when we're going to have them take a look at it.
This past year, we poured $8,000 into the budget, and so there has been major repairs completed on the roof, okay? The company is telling us they will continue to chase the problems as an aging roof does, and that eventually we will have to redo the roof. And when that time comes, it'll either be when we sell it or before, whatever. So, but we are on top of it. Every year we call the company, they come over, they evaluate, they fix the problems, and the problem's coming. So this year we did invest approximately $8,000 in the roof.
Any other questions? Okay, so with that, I'll take how many people do we have here are members? Partners, sorry, partners. Okay, great, almost everybody. All right, I'll call a voice vote. All those in favor of the budget, say aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Anybody got any other comments, or is everybody ready to go? Oh, yes, almost forgot. Thank you, Aaron.
Yep, I got two last quick things, and then we're done. So thank you very much for being here and putting in the time today. All right, so first off, I want to say that all three of our nominees for overseer have been affirmed by the congregation. And so we look forward to those three guys joining the team. All right, so the last bit of business that we need to do before we can adjourn is there have been 13 people that have been nominated by y'all to be on the team next year for nominating overseers, okay? So how we're going to do it, we'll pull out a name and then I will ask that person if they accept. If they do, then they'll be a part of the team. We're looking for 3 people that are going to be a part of the team for nomination. They will also be working with a current overseer in that process. Typically comes about next spring, and you'll get contacted. And like I said, typically a lot of stuff happens over email, and then you meet with a few folks. So it's a helpful process, and but it's not super time consuming. So anyway, so I'm going to pull out a name. If you accept, cool. If you don't want to accept, that's fine. Okay, we'll just move on to the next person. All right. So the first person, Sarah Boyle. Is Sarah in here? I know. She accepts. That way. Ian, should we go that far to say that she would accept? Okay. All right. Well, Sarah's in. All right, for now. Okay. Don't leave. As you get Stephen Patricus. Are you willing to do it? Okay. All right. Now, all right. No worries. All right. Thank you. So we still have one. And Dave Hazen. Where's Dave at? Is he here? Oh, Sarah's out. Okay. All right. So we're still looking for 3. Dave, will you be willing to do it? Oh, you gotta love it. Dave, would you be willing to? All right, thanks, Dave. Okay, write his name down quick. Just kidding. All right, so Dave is accepted. Okay, Mary Beth Patricus, would you be willing to be on the nominating team? Sure, she says. All right, Mary Beth Patricus says yay. And our last person is my wife, Rochelle. You have done it in the past. All right, she's. See, Ian, I lit it up to her. I didn't pick her. Anyway, Tom, Econom. All right, he took off. He's in. No, just kidding. All right. John Bell, would you be willing to be on the team? Yes? All right, John Bell is in. All right, cool. So, John, Mary Beth, and Dave Hazen. Our 3 nominating team. Yeah, let's give them a hand. Thank you. Okay. Woo, gonna be a ruckus of a time. All right. So, do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting? John Bell, second. Second, Sean up here. And all in favor of adjourning this meeting? Say aye. Any opposed? I hope not. All right, well, thank you very much for coming. Let me just pray us out and then have an enjoyable rest of your day. God, thank you so much for this group of people that love you, love this place, and desire to do your will. God, may in the coming months ahead, may you continue to guide us. We know that if you're in charge, that we just need to follow, and you'll lead us. You will protect us. You'll guide us in all the ways that you have to this point. We praise you and we thank you. We ask this now in Jesus' name. Amen.